In 1960, two men descended into complete darkness in a tiny metal sphere, not knowing if they would survive. At 30,000 feet down, they heard a terrifying crack. One of their windows had fractured under the crushing pressure. They had a choice: turn back or continue into the abyss with a compromised window that could implode at any moment. They kept going. And what they discovered at the bottom changed everything we thought we knew about life on Earth. You are watching Science Revealed, and today we are diving into the deepest place on our planet, the Mariana Trench, to uncover the shocking truths that science got completely wrong for decades. The Mariana Trench is not just deep, it is incomprehensibly deep. This underwater canyon stretches across the Pacific Ocean floor like a massive scar in the Earth's crust, curving for approximately 2,550 kilometers. But it is narrow, only about 69 kilometers wide at most points. What makes it truly extraordinary is its depth. At its lowest point, called the Challenger Deep, the ocean floor sits nearly 11,000 meters below the surface. That is almost 36,000 feet of water pressing down on everything below. To understand just how deep that really is, imagine this. If you took Mount Everest, the tallest mountain on Earth, and dropped it into the Challenger Deep, its peak would still be over 1.5 kilometers below the ocean's surface. You would not even see the top. The Grand Canyon, which seems impossibly deep when you stand at its edge, is only about 2,000 meters at its deepest point. The Challenger Deep is more than 5 times deeper than that. Here's another way to picture it. If you could somehow swim straight down from the surface to the bottom, and you were an incredibly fast swimmer maintaining a constant speed, the journey would take you approximately 4 hours. 4 hours of descending through increasingly dark, increasingly cold, increasingly pressurized water. But of course, no human could make that journey without protection. The pressure alone would kill you long before you reach the bottom. And that brings us to the first thing we were completely wrong about. For the longest time, scientists believed that nothing could possibly survive at those depths. The pressure at the bottom of the Mariana Trench is over 1,000 times greater than at sea level. We are talking about roughly 16,000 pounds per square inch. To put that in perspective, it is like having approximately 100 elephants standing on an area the size of your thumbnail. Every square inch of your body would be experiencing that same crushing force. We thought life simply could not exist under those conditions. We were wrong. When Jacques Piccard and Walsh reached the bottom of the Challenger Deep in 1960 aboard their submersible called the Trieste, they spent approximately 20 minutes on the seafloor. In those 20 minutes, through their tiny viewing port, they witnessed something that shocked the scientific community. They saw a flatfish and shrimp moving across the ocean floor. Living creatures thriving in conditions we believed were incompatible with life. Piccard later described this moment with genuine excitement. He said it answered a question biologists had been asking for years. Can life survive in the deepest parts of the ocean? What he saw proved that it absolutely can. But we were not just wrong about whether life could exist there. We were also wrong about what kind of life exists there and how these creatures have adapted to survive. Let me introduce you to some of the strangest organisms ever discovered. The Mariana snailfish holds the record as the deepest living fish ever found, discovered at depths of approximately 8,000 meters. This creature looks like something from another planet. It is almost completely translucent, like a living X-ray. You can see through its skin to the organs inside. It has almost no bones. Its body is soft and gelatinous, with barely any skeletal structure to speak of. And its face, if you can even call it that, looks unfinished, as if evolution forgot to complete it. The snailfish has no scales. Its skin is thin and delicate. But despite appearing so fragile, it survives in an environment that would instantly crush most other creatures. How? Its body is specifically adapted to high pressure. The lack of bones and rigid structures means there are no air pockets that could collapse. Its cells are filled with organic compounds that stabilize under extreme pressure. In a way, the pressure itself is what holds the fish together. Then there is the giant amphipod. In shallow water, amphipods are tiny crustaceans, smaller than a grain of rice. But in the deep ocean, they grow to monstrous sizes. We are talking about 12 inches long or more. These massive scavengers feed on whatever dead material falls from above. When a whale carcass sinks to the ocean floor, thousands of these creatures swarm it, stripping the flesh in a feeding frenzy that can last for months. But here is the truly fascinating part. These giant amphipods have developed a unique adaptation to survive in the acidic, high-pressure water of the deep ocean. They extract aluminum from the seafloor mud and incorporate it into their exoskeletons, creating a protective coating that prevents their shells from dissolving. It is like they are wearing custom-made armor, specifically designed for the extreme environment they live in. We were also wrong about how diverse life is at these depths. For decades, we assumed the deep ocean was essentially a desert, sparsely populated with a few strange creatures eking out a minimal existence. But the reality is far more complex. The Hadal Zone, which includes the deepest ocean trenches like the Mariana Trench, is home to a surprisingly diverse ecosystem. Scientists have discovered xenophyophores, which are single-celled organisms that grow to the size of softballs. Think about that for a moment. A single cell over 4 inches in diameter. That should not be possible. Single-celled organisms are supposed to be microscopic. Yet these massive protozoans thrive on the seafloor, looking like lumps of alien tissue stuck to rocks. We still do not fully understand how they achieve this size or what role they play in the deep ocean ecosystem. In 2017, researchers exploring the deep waters off Australia pulled up something that immediately went viral online: the faceless fish. This creature looks exactly like its name suggests. It appears to have no eyes, no nose, no mouth, just smooth skin where a face should be. Of course, it does have a mouth, but it is located underneath its body, giving the fish an extremely unsettling appearance. It is like looking at a creature that evolution forgot to finish. The barrel-eye fish might be even stranger. This deep sea fish has a completely transparent head. You can literally see its brain and tubular eyes through its clear skull. The eyes point straight upward, allowing the fish to detect the faint silhouettes of prey against the dim light filtering down from above. When it spots something it wants to eat, it rotates its eyes forward. Imagine a fish that can see through its own head and reposition its eyes inside its transparent skull. That is the bizarre reality of deep ocean adaptation. We were wrong about the ocean zones themselves. For years, marine biology textbooks taught that the ocean was divided into neat, distinct layers: the sunlight zone, the twilight zone, the midnight zone, the abyssal zone, and finally the Hadal zone. We treated these as separate, clearly defined environments. But research has shown that these zones are far more interconnected than we thought. Creatures migrate between zones. Nutrients flow in complex patterns. The boundaries are not rigid walls, but gradual transitions. The Mariana Trench also contains geological features we never expected. In 1996, researchers discovered mud volcanoes on the seafloor near the trench. These are not like regular volcanoes. They do not erupt with lava. Instead, they erupt with cold mud and methane gas. One of these mud volcanoes measures approximately 30 meters wide, making it one of the largest geological structures on the ocean floor. Even more bizarre, scientists have found liquid carbon dioxide lakes in the Mariana Trench. At the extreme pressure of the deep ocean, carbon dioxide does not exist as a gas. It becomes a liquid. This creates actual pools of liquid carbon dioxide sitting on the seafloor, something that does not exist anywhere else on Earth. Researchers are studying these pools to understand how life might exist on other planets with similar extreme conditions. We were catastrophically wrong about one thing in particular. We believed the deepest parts of the ocean were pristine, untouched by human activity. We thought that at least the very bottom of the sea would be safe from pollution. We were devastatingly wrong. In 2019, explorer Victor Vescovo made multiple dives to the Challenger Deep. What he discovered at the bottom made headlines around the world and served as a gut-wrenching wake-up call for humanity. At approximately 10,900 meters below the surface, at the absolute deepest point on Earth, he found plastic. A plastic bag and candy wrapper sitting on the ocean floor. Think about what this means. The most remote, most inaccessible place on the entire planet, a location that only a handful of humans have ever reached, and we have already polluted it. If our trash has made it to the Challenger Deep, then nowhere on Earth is safe from human impact. Microplastics have been found in the stomachs of creatures living at these extreme depths. We have contaminated the most extreme environment on the planet before we even had a chance to fully explore it. We were also wrong about the sounds of the deep ocean. In 1997, the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration was monitoring underwater sounds in the Pacific Ocean. They picked up something extraordinary, an extremely loud, ultra-low frequency sound that was detected by sensors over 5,000 kilometers apart. They called it the bloop. For years, people speculated that the bloop was evidence of some massive unknown creature living in the deep ocean. The sound seemed biological. It had a quality that resembled animal vocalizations. Theories ranged from giant squid to unknown species to even surviving prehistoric creatures. The bloop became legendary in cryptozoology circles, but we were wrong about what caused it. The official explanation from the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration is that the bloop was most likely caused by an ice quake, the sound of a massive ice shelf cracking and breaking apart in Antarctica. The audio that circulates online is actually sped up 16 times, which gives it that eerie, biological quality. At normal speed, it sounds much more like cracking ice. However, here is the unsettling truth: we still cannot be completely certain. The ocean is so vast and so unexplored that we cannot definitively rule out the possibility of large, unknown creatures. Over 80% of the ocean remains unexplored. But we have better maps of the surface of Mars than we do of our own ocean floor. There have been other mysterious underwater sounds recorded near deep ocean trenches. The upsweep is a sound that has been detected continuously since 1991. It is a long series of narrow band upward sweeping sounds that occur several times per minute. Its source remains unknown, though most scientists believe it is geological rather than biological. The Julia sound recorded in 1999 was loud enough to be heard across the entire Pacific Ocean. It lasted for about 15 seconds and sounded like something absolutely massive moving through the water. The official explanation is that it was an iceberg running aground, but the sound characteristics do not perfectly match that explanation. Some researchers believe it could have been a large marine animal, though no known animal could produce a sound that loud. We were wrong about how life survives at these depths. We assumed creatures in the deep ocean would need to be slow-moving and energy-conserving because food is so scarce. While that is true for many deep-sea creatures, some organisms in the Mariana Trench are surprisingly active and robust. Hydrothermal vents, cracks in the seafloor where superheated water pours out, support entire thriving ecosystems. The water from these vents can reach temperatures of 750 degrees Fahrenheit or more. This superheated water is filled with minerals and chemicals. When it mixes with the near-freezing ocean water, it creates massive plumes of minerals. Around these vents, giant tube worms grow up to 8 feet long. These creatures have no mouth and no digestive system. Instead, they have a special organ filled with bacteria. These bacteria convert the chemicals in the vent water into nutrients through a process called chemosynthesis. The worms and bacteria live in symbiosis, each depending on the other for survival. We had no idea life could exist using chemical energy instead of sunlight, until we discovered these hydrothermal vent communities. Near the vents, scientists have discovered shrimp that are completely blind but have heat-sensing organs on their backs. They can detect the infrared radiation from the superheated water and use it to navigate. They cluster around the vents in massive swarms, feeding on bacteria that thrive in the chemical-rich environment. Some of these shrimp have been found with bacteria living inside their gill chambers, providing them with nutrients directly. We were wrong about the connection between space exploration and ocean exploration. For years, these seemed like completely separate fields, but the National Aeronautics and Space Administration, the space agency, has been heavily involved in deep ocean exploration. Why would a space agency care about the ocean? The deep ocean is the closest analog we have to alien environments. The conditions in the Hadal Zone, extreme pressure, no sunlight, freezing temperatures, reliance on chemical energy, are remarkably similar to conditions we believe exist on Europa, one of Jupiter's moons. Europa has a global ocean beneath its icy surface. If life exists there, it would likely resemble the chemosynthetic bacteria and extremophiles we find in Earth's deep ocean trenches. By studying how life survives in the Mariana Trench, the National Aeronautics and Space Administration can develop better strategies for searching for life on other worlds. The technology used to explore the deep ocean, pressure-resistant materials, autonomous vehicles, remote sensing equipment, is directly applicable to space exploration. A submersible that can withstand the pressure of the Challenger Deep uses similar engineering principles to a spacecraft that must withstand the vacuum of space. The National Aeronautics and Space Administration has also used the ocean to train astronauts. The NASA Extreme Environment Mission Operations Program, known as NEMO, sends astronauts to live in an underwater habitat off the coast of Florida. The experience of living in a confined space, dealing with limited resources, and working in a hostile environment prepares them for long-duration space missions. We were wrong about the potential for deep-sea mining. For decades, the ocean floor was seen as an untouchable frontier, but technology has advanced to the point where deep-sea mining is becoming economically viable. The seafloor of the Mariana Trench and other deep ocean areas contains valuable mineral deposits. Polymetallic nodules, potato-sized rocks, rich in cobalt, nickel, copper, and manganese, litter the ocean floor. These metals are essential for batteries, electronics, and renewable energy technology. Mining companies are already planning to harvest these nodules using robotic vehicles to vacuum them up and pump them to the surface, but this could devastate the seafloor ecosystem. Many of these organisms have existed for millions of years in stable environments. They reproduce slowly and recover from disturbances even more slowly. Mining the seafloor could wipe out species we have not even discovered yet. The International Seabed Authority is supposed to regulate deep sea mining, but the rules are still being developed. Some scientists are calling for a complete moratorium on all deep sea mining until we better understand the ecosystems we would be destroying. We were wrong about whether the Mariana Trench could hide unknown megafauna. For years, people speculated that giant creatures, perhaps even prehistoric survivors, could be lurking in the deepest trenches. The 2018 film The Meg popularized the idea of a megalodon shark still surviving in the Mariana Trench. The reality is more complex. Could large unknown creatures exist in the deep ocean? Possibly. The ocean is vast and largely unexplored. New species are discovered regularly, and some of them are quite large. The giant squid was considered a myth until we finally photographed a living specimen in 2004. The coelacanth was thought to be extinct for 66 million years until a living specimen was caught in 1938. However, could a massive predator like megalodon survive in the Mariana Trench? Almost certainly not. The deep ocean is actually a food desert. While life exists there, it is sparse and small. A massive predator needs massive amounts of food. There simply is not enough prey in the deep ocean to support something the size of a megalodon. The deepest dwelling fish we have found are snailfish at depths below 8,000 meters, and they are only about 20 centimeters long. The pressure at extreme depths also creates physiological challenges for large animals. While some creatures have adapted to survive at those depths, They are all relatively small with specialized adaptations. What we do know is that the Mariana Trench continues to surprise us. Every expedition brings new discoveries, new species, new behaviors, new adaptations we never imagined possible. The creatures living there have taught us that life is far more resilient and adaptable than we ever thought possible. The Mariana Trench represents both the wonder and the warning of our relationship with the planet. It shows us that life can thrive in the most extreme environments imaginable, but it also shows us that there is nowhere left on Earth that is beyond the reach of human impact. The creatures of the Mariana Trench have survived for millions of years in one of the harshest environments on Earth. They have endured ice ages, asteroid impacts, and countless other catastrophes, but they may not survive us. The question is whether we will choose to be their protectors or their destroyers. What do you think is the most shocking discovery from the Mariana Trench? Is it the bizarre creatures that live there? The fact that we found pollution at the deepest point on Earth? Or the realization that we have barely begun to explore our own planet? Let me know in the comments below. If you want to learn more about the incredible creatures of the deep ocean, check out our other videos on this channel. We have explored everything from bioluminescent organisms to the terrifying predators of the Midnight Zone. Thanks for watching Science Revealed, and I will see you in the next video.